Welcome to Busted Speakers. I'm Kush,
And I'm Alex.
and today we're reviewing The Assassination of Julius Caesar by Ulver. So Ulver is a band. Yes, they're a band.
Yes.
They you can't really put them in a genre because they've done some black metal, they've done atmospheric music, some ambient music, some electronic music, and now they're in the synthpop realm. And I don't know how they got there, but they're here.
Yes, they're here and they're large and in charge of any genre they try. They seem to make some of the best in the genre, basically. Somehow they have that much talent.
Yeah, this album, I didn't know what to expect because I've listened to their black metal album. I didn't realize it was Ulver because of I was not expecting to make a synth pop album, so I was thinking maybe it's a different band name, Ulver or something similar. Anyway,
Yeah.
I checked it out and I remember listening to this album and I really enjoyed it when I first listened to it. So oh, this is gonna be interesting. Let's see what they do. This was such an interesting listen. Firstly, in a good way though, because I thoroughly enjoyed this album. I really enjoyed this album. I really loved it, but it was so interesting because you can still hear those black metal elements and those more atmospheric elements in some of these songs. They haven't lost it all. They haven't switched over completely. They bring those back and they've put it into synth pop in a way that it actually works.
When I saw that this was labelled as synthpop, I thought it'd be like industrial, because there had to be some cross point between black metal and synthpop. I know they've done millions of others, but that's like their most acclaimed albums are black metal, and now they're doing synthpop. But this is really dark, but I love this album. Yeah, I loved it way more than I thought I would. Depeche Mode fans, I'm sure you can agree with this, Kush,
Yes,
after hearing
Depeche Mode
Spirit.
fans will love this.
Depeche Mode fans will cream their pants over this because it's way they will, because it's way better than Spirit, even though we both enjoyed that to a fair degree. This is so well produced and dark, but still enjoyable and catchy, just like the best Depeche Mode. And it's such an interesting concept as well about the assassination of Julius Caesar. But it doesn't go full in depth with that, but it does a little bit. And I just love this album beyond words, even though I will be saying it in words, so it's not really beyond words, is it?
Yeah. So I want to start off some of my favorite songs on here.
Yeah.
They had to be, one was Rolling Stone. I love that song. Then So Falls the World, Angelus Novus, Coming Home. All those songs I liked a lot. So with Rolling Stone, I had this really tight production and they had high reverb and distorted guitars, reminiscent of their black metal days. So you can hear those influences still there. They're not gone completely. And they have dual vocals, which normally I am a bit hesitant towards, but they worked really well on this album, and I was really impressed by what they did, or what they were able to do.
Yeah, Rolling Stone is... I find it hard to talk about the best songs on here. I mean, they're all really, really good. Transverberation might be the weakest, just because it actually sounded like it had an EDM production. I know we say that for every album now, but the guitar sounded like sort of the guitar in some EDM songs I've heard. It's just the way the guitar's played. But yeah, that song was weird. But Rolling Stone, I agree. It's so reminiscent of the rock electronic grooves Depeche Mode laid down in the early 90s. And it's such a long song. They let the instrumental passages have room to breathe. That's the main thing. And it's an absolute joy to listen to. Once that guitar kicks in about a minute and a half in, it's game over. It's so good. And it's a weird one too. Because it has that female vocalist, if you remember, Kush.
Yeah, the dual vocals.
Yeah, the dual vocals, and it really works. And it's not a chore to listen through a 10-minute song. It really works so well. And it has
this album did not feel as long as it was. It's only 8 songs. This album's 8 songs long?
45 minutes, and it does not feel like that.
It feels so short. I wanted more of this.
Well, just listen to their other albums, except it'll be a different genre. Oh no.
Yeah. The closer was another beautiful, almost spoken word, eclectic, vibrant piece.
Yeah.
They have these just wild and crazy horns in the background, which I love. I think I've warmed up to having horn sections, but I love it when they're just so wild and they're so unpredictable, and I think that's the best part about it. But the vocalist, I don't know who the vocalist is. I didn't do much research into the band, but he sounds so impassioned and emotional in this song. Like, I felt whatever he was feeling, and I have no clue what he was feeling, but I felt that, and it was beautiful.
He talks about it being the same old song, but that can't be true for Ulver. They've made so many different genres. Like, it's very unlikely to make the same old song, but he was saying it like that in this. And this, my main thought here in Coming Home was, this is the last track already? It's just so enjoyable, this album, that it goes by in a flash, and oh, it's such an odd structure, this song. It's so unconventional and experimental. It's like got industrial grooves, although it's still reasonably accessible. And like you were saying, yeah, it has a weird horn or jazz instrument getting played at the end. This is of a high quality level, but it's one of the tracks I'll probably play the least just because of how odd it is, especially the spoken word part. But yeah, it has like a synth groove and a jazz bit at the end, and he goes like to forgive and forget at the end, if you remember. And it's such a cool way to end the album.
Do you like the song Southern Gothic?
It's pretty good, but it sounds like it could have only been made now. Like, this song couldn't exist in the 80s, because it sounds like it has house influences in it. I don't know if you felt that.
I thought you'd like this more, because this is probably the most pop mainstream song they have on this album.
It's actually unnerving to me how much this sounds like Depeche Mode. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've heard so much Depeche Mode.
It reminded me a little bit of like a Daft Punk style with the production on this one, but much more daunting and much more dark. But it's still a good song. I thought that was probably one of your favorites because it's more of like a pop oriented, more like mainstream oriented synth pop music.
Just because something's like pop influenced doesn't mean I'll like it more. There's a good chance there will be that, but not so here. Yeah, but that's what I was saying. It sounds like it has Daft Punk influence, but Daft Punk only came around in the mid-90s. This couldn't be made in the 80s, so it's definitely sounds like a song that could only be made now. But yeah, it was pretty good. But the best song for me, by far, is So Falls the World. It's so beautiful, that song.
I love this album is sequenced beautifully.
Yeah.
So Rolling Stone ends aggressive, and there's frantic drums and horns and abrasive, and it just sounds so violent. And then it cuts away to this atmospheric piano intro for So Falls the World.
And it builds up atmospheric as well, Kush. Atmospheric, that's the key word.
And it builds up to these just builds up the instrumentation, and and then the vocals kick in, and they create this they create these atmospheres that you just kind of fall into, kind of like what a post-rock song would do. Like, they create these sounds that you just kind of get sucked into. They do this with a synth pop record, which I've never heard, because I've never been the biggest fan of synth pop, but this is some good synth pop, real good.
It's really good, and I think the big reason why they work so well over at different genres is that they try and make different atmospheres, and just the fact they've done so many atmospheres, like they've done their ambient and their electronic, so they know how to make a good atmosphere for any genre. And it's so beautiful and haunting, so many great sweeping melodies, and it's just, I could just say it's beautiful. And I know this is talking about the concept of Julius Caesar's death, and this song talks about Rome falling, and then it has a high speed section at the end where it's like fighting in the streets of ancient Rome. And it's like, so falls the world. Like, the world of ancient Rome was fallen. So it brings out the ancient history geek in me, like the Game of Thrones geek in me. I really got a kick out of that, I guess.
Yeah, this was a good record. Well, just a quick question. What do you think they're gonna go next with their type of music? Which genre do you think they're gonna stick to synth pop?
I don't think so. Okay, I can list basically all the genres they've done. They've done black metal, they've done folk, they've done ambient, electronic, art rock, psychedelic pop. They made a psychedelic pop covers album. I think they've even done some trip hop, and now they're doing synth pop. So, and they've done more rock stuff, obviously. So, there's not much else to go, really. Could do reggae, they could do classical. I'd be happy if they did more synth pop though, because this was so good.
I feel like they might go into a more post-rock, post-metal sort of uh, album, because they create the soundscapes in a similar sense where like they want you to fall in love with them. And I think their best songs on here were the ones that were more atmospheric rather than more upbeat and happy sort of songs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
definitely. The atmosphere on here is definitely a good
So I feel
way
like
of showing that.
if they did do a post rock or post metal album, I'd probably just cream my pants.
Yep, we've said that twice now. What have we become? So I just want to quickly touch on every song, because every song in here touched my heart.
Sure.
1969 is weird, because they talk about nothing has changed since the late 60s, and he says it in such a professional and self-assured light that I almost believe him, even though it's clearly not true. Ulver couldn't exist in the late 60s, really. Then he says something like what I think is Helter Skelter, which is obviously a classic Beatles song. I don't know, it's a weird track, and there's like a female vocalist on it too. There's Angelus Novus. What did you think of that?
That was one of my favorite songs on here. The vocal range is so impressive, and it gets so loud during the chorus. And you can really hear this is the song where you can hear those influences, not just a straight synth pop song. There's so many things going on. It's so gorgeous throughout the whole album.
Yeah, you can like tell they were an atmospheric black metal band hearing this.
Yeah.
And there's also obviously the first track, No Moralia, which is obviously probably one of the more catchy pop tunes. Like, it's the one that made me think, damn, this really is a synth pop album. It's not just black metal really catchy. It's really, really synth pop. And I have to say that this album is the first album I've heard this year that has really made me want to check out all of their albums, like all of Ulver's discography, as soon as possible, because they sound so good and different. I've only heard the first album and this, but that's already a big shift.
So what would you rate this album, Alex?
9.5 out of 10.
Oh boy, woo!
Now, here's the problem with rating it that high, is that you think, oh, it may as well be a 10. I'm thinking that a few of these melodies are a bit too weird, a few of the lyrics don't hit home, and I think every song has to be perfect to be a 10, obviously, if it's a perfect score, but this album took me places I never thought I'd go, and oh, it's so surreal. It's one of my favourites this year. It's just, I love synth pop, and they made some really interesting and catchy synth pop. I can't ask for much more. It's amazing. Check this out, anybody.
Yeah, for me, I'm a bit more reserved in my ratings. So like this album was fantastic. There were a couple grooves that I wasn't super into. Some of the more upbeat kind of synth pop songs were like, they were still good. They weren't fully for me. Southern Gothic was a bit like out of place for me on this album, but the rest of these songs were really, really good. Some great atmosphere, some great instrumentation. Vocals are fantastic on this, and the concept is really cool about having like a whole album based on the death of one figure.
Well, it's not even fully about that. It's like there was a song talking about the late 60s, so I think there's a lot more lyrically to this album than we can make out via a few listens.
Yeah. So for me, it's an 8 out of 10. Still a really good score. A real good score.
Yeah, that's still one of your highest scores this year.
Well, if that's it, then thanks for tuning to Busted Speakers. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Check out some of our older videos. Let us know what you think about this album in the comments below, and check us out on social media.
Do it now.